So, looks like we're live, guys. Well, hi, my name is Christina, and welcome to another SEMrush webinar. Today I'm joined by two speakers. First, as you can see, I have my colleague here with me, Anastasia, and I also have Matthew Sauer joining us, who is the head of paid media at iProspect Australia. So thank you so much, Matthew, for joining us. Thank you for coming along. Thank you, Anastasia, as well. So today our webinar is going to be about PPC, and the topic of the webinar is how to master your PPC performance. So let me talk a little bit about the structure of the webinar. Matthew is going to present a PPC workflow, so step-by-step guide how you should create an ad campaign, what you should do, how you should do keyword research. So lots of very, very useful insights on this side. And then my colleague Anastasia is going to show you how you can do those steps with the help of SEMrush, some useful tips and tricks. Also at this point, I'd like to say that you're more than welcome to ask your questions. You can see that there is a comment box below the video, so you can write your questions there. You can also tweet them with the hashtag SEMrushLive. I'm going to be monitoring them throughout the session, so make sure you ask them. And I feel like now we're ready to start. Matthew, so over to you. I guess you can start your presentation. Thank you so much again for joining.
Oh, no problem. So I've just shared my screen there. Hopefully everyone can see it.
Yep.
So today we're going to be going through basically how to structure a paid search campaign. So we'll look at a number of variables in terms of how we actually go about setting all that up from the research process all the way through to actually implementing that. Just a quick intro for those who do not know who I am. So I work out of our Brisbane office here in Australia, managing an in-house team. I've had 5+ years experience in paid advertising, and I've worked across a number of clients from a number of different verticals, everything from travel, finance, retail, and so forth. Cool. So what we're aiming to run through today, essentially 3 key pillars is what I want to touch on here. And so one, understanding how to research and select keywords for your campaigns. So we'll cover off like a number of keyword tools and methods is how we do that. 2, understand actually how to set up and structure your search campaigns off the back of that keyword research. And then finally, understanding how to actually write effective ad copy that relates to those keywords so you can actually generate some traffic to your website. So what we'll cover is 3 key points. So the keyword research process, the campaign structure and components, and ad copywriting techniques and considerations. Cool. So we'll kick off with the first point here, which is around keyword research process. So why is keyword research important, or why do we actually have to bother with keywords? It should be pretty straightforward in that keywords help people find you online. If you're not targeting keywords, you're not going to rank in Google or Bing or whatever engine you're going after. And that's the same for the organic side of things as well. Obviously, if you weren't targeting different keywords, you're not going to get much visibility there. But obviously very important from a paid perspective because you need to target a keyword to show an ad. It also helps us ensure that we're reaching the right audience. So rather than showing for every single search available, we can actually choose what keywords or search queries we actually want to show for. So we can make sure that the traffic that's hopefully going to click through to our site is quite qualified. And ad copy will play a bit of a role in that as well, but we'll touch on that at the end. And third, targeting relevant keywords obviously is essential for achieving a high quality score within your AdWords campaigns. If we're targeting random terms that aren't really relevant to our website or what the user's after, it's going to cost us a lot more to actually show an ad and get that click through to the website. So we want to make sure that they are actually really targeted and relevant to what we're offering and what we're trying to achieve, because that's going to have huge benefits from a quality score perspective. So the way that we generally divide up keywords is into 3 areas here. So we can segment them based on the intent of the user. And where you should be spending the most time, I guess, in your keyword research and how you go about optimizing your keywords is really where the biggest opportunity is going to be to actually drive conversion. So at the base there, you have your like research or your generic seed terms, head terms. There's many different names, I guess you could call them. But these are going to be your really high volume terms. So for example, shorts, patios, decks. There's a whole range of different terms there that you can fit within that category. So these terms are actually really great for getting you a lot of visibility if you have the budget to do that. And they're also really great for capturing new traffic because they are quite high up in the funnel. So really good for acquisition-based terms. In the middle there, you've got like your product terms. So these are a little more specific. So they relate to a specific service or product that you may sell on your website. So it might be a certain type of short in this case. So quick dry board shorts, for example. The volume of these terms is often likely to be a little bit lower than what you would see with the research and seed terms. But what should happen, or you should see a high conversion rate through these type of terms because they're much more relevant. They're sort of working down the funnel. So you'd expect people to be converting off them more so than a generic research term where they may not be aware of what they actually want. Yeah. And then you've got your branded terms. So naturally, these are the highest converting terms. You know, if someone's searching your brand online, they're obviously very familiar with who you are. They've done the research, they've come through all the different levels of keywords. So they have a much higher potential to convert there. So where you should be, in my opinion, spending a lot of the focus is around those product and brand terms rather than the generic sort of research terms, unless you have a goal, which is a KPI to drive traffic or visibility across that upper funnel. So in terms of the keyword research process, there are essentially 4 areas which we'll cover off today. We'll essentially move left to right in terms of how we're covering that off. So the first section will be focused on creating your seed terms. So this is basically identifying those generic terms, and we can do that through looking at the actual vertical that we're in, or the website, or just our products in general. Then we'll look at a few different methods on how we can actually expand those initial terms, looking through a few tools. And then we'll finish off by looking at how we actually go about then refining those terms and actually picking what we want. So looking at things like what our competitors are targeting, where that opportunity is in terms of demand, and then looking at match types. You know, should we be doing broad phrase or exact match in terms of targeting? So in terms of the seed terms, the best place to start is your website, in my opinion. This is a really easy way. Hopefully your website is structured in a clear layout that allows you to do this. But yeah, the quickest way to do it is basically jump on your website, look at your menus. In this case, there's a services menu, so we can drop that down and look at all the different categories that we could be targeting there. So immediately we get an idea of some head terms that we can start to use a bit later on in the different keyword tools that we'll be looking at. So in this case, I'm able to pull some terms like search engine optimization, pay-per-click, programmatic advertising, and content writing from that. So immediately I have a baseline of where I actually want to expand and what other variations I might be able to fit within these categories here. If you don't have a website that's structured nicely in terms of getting you this information, definitely just start in the vertical. So think of what people would be searching or what you're actually selling is the other place to start. So once we get those initial keywords, what we can do is take them into various keyword research tools. So here I'm just using Google Keyword Planner. There's obviously plenty of other tools that you could be using out there as well. I'll definitely recommend using a combination. Don't just stick with one. The benefit of using multiple is that you can obviously compare the different volumes and see if it is consistent across the different tools, as well as ensuring that all the different variations are popping up there. But what we're going to do is we're going to take that initial keyword list that we had on the other slide from our website, so just those initial seed terms. We'll pop them in, we'll set our targeting and any other criteria that we want, so language, search engine, if there's any negative keywords that we want to exclude there, and we're going to click on the Get Ideas button. And what this is going to spit out is a range of different keywords and terms that we can potentially start to look at here. So what we want to use this output is start to identify variations of those seed or head terms that we can be targeting. So immediately I can see that there's quite a few different ones that I could be using. So I initially started with the really broad stuff like search engine optimization and pay-per-click. But what the tool has spat out is essentially what else users are searching for and what actually has volume there. So I can see that a variation of search engine optimization is SEO, for example. I can see that people are also searching for SEO services, SEO marketing, and SEO company. And I can essentially drill down each of my seed terms into those different variations there and start to form a bit more of a detailed list of potential keywords that we may look to target. What the keyword tool also do is start to spit out additional variations or similar terms that are relevant to what you're offering across your website. So in this case, I've also picked up that internet marketing or digital marketing is another area that Google Keyword Planner has identified as relevant to the initial seed terms I put in. So again, I have an opportunity there to actually expand on the number of keywords I might consider looking at there. So things like internet marketing, online marketing, digital marketing, e-marketing, and so on. So obviously ensuring that a lot of this is still relevant to what I'm offering across the website, but I can start to now expand on my list. So obviously this is a very small snapshot of what you could do. Potentially you could go through 10, 20, 30, 40 pages worth of keyword research, depending on the time that you have, and start to pick out and really actually get quite granular with a lot of the different areas that you're pulling out there to expand that list. Another useful tip in keyword research is to actually take some of the terms that the keyword tools are spitting out, or the keywords that you've actually started with, and actually just do some searches across Google or Bing. And if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, what you'll see is searches related to the keyword or query that you've input. So again, very similar to the keyword tool, it just gives you some different variations that may not have popped up. So for example, I can now take some of those terms. So AdWords management, Google AdWords management is obviously related to pay-per-click. So I can put that in my initial keyword list there. Things like SEO Brisbane, AdWords Brisbane, and so forth, digital marketing Brisbane. So again, just a few other additional terms that you can pull. So I definitely encourage you to do your own research just within the search engine itself and see what other people are searching. You can also go to Google Trends. And again, just type in the keyword, and what that will spit out is basically breakout or rising terms as well to get some ideas there. So yeah, definitely use a combination of tools when conducting your initial keyword research. So from that, we now basically have an initial list of keywords that we're going to consider targeting. But hopefully by this stage, your list is a bit more substantial than just a small snapshot we've pulled there. But now we're going to start to refine that and decide what's actually relevant and what we actually want to keep in there and include, and what's actually going to drive that potential. So that starts off with a bit of competitor research. So analyzing the competitor landscape is really important, because what we want to make sure is that when we do a query, that the intent is exactly the same as what we're considering that intent to be as well. So just making sure that the keyword tool is applying the same logic there. An example of that, if you just go to Google and you type in tick, even though that's not a product, but yeah, if you went and typed in tick, the first instance that comes up is actually the animal tick, rather than like, a marking grade or a tick on a bit of paper. So Google can often interpret different keywords depending on what the users are most likely searching for there. So definitely be sure to actually run some searches just to make sure that logic and intent is the same. Also, you want to analyze your competitors to identify what keywords their ads are actually showing for. Potentially what you consider they may actually be bidding on or is relevant to them, they may not actually be investing in that space. So that's not to say that you shouldn't invest in that space. That might actually be an opportunity for you. But again, maybe there's a reason why they're not investing in that space. Potentially it's not really relevant. There's not a lot of volume. It's too expensive and so forth. Finally, you want to decide if the keyword is too competitive to rank for, and if there is opportunity to target areas, obviously, that your competitors aren't looking at just yet. So the easiest way to do this is go back to our Google Keyword Planner and basically put in your competitor website into the tool. Again, select your targeting criteria and hit Get Ideas. And this is going to spit out a bunch of terms again that it considers relevant to the landing page or the website that you've actually input into the tool itself. So the good news here is that I can look that my competitor actually has quite a few similar terms to what I initially picked out in my keyword list, which is good. So there's definitely some opportunity for overlap there. But I can also see that there's a few terms in there that probably aren't really relevant to what I'm offering and I may not actually want to consider. So for example, I can see that PPC agency, Google AdWords services, PPC management services, and so forth were keywords that also came up in my initial report. So it's definitely worth considering that because there's going to be overlap there. There's also some decent volumes, which is good too. That's likely where my competitor may be. The ones marked in yellow here, so these are ones that didn't actually pop up for us in our initial keyword research, but they're popping up for our competitor. So again, these all look relevant to what my actual service is on the website and what we were initially pulling. So I would consider actually adding these to my keyword list to expand that a little further. But then you obviously have terms which aren't really relevant to anything that we're offering from the website. So for example, email marketing, small business grants obviously aren't really relevant to what we're doing. So we probably don't need to pull them into our keyword list because that's essentially going to be unqualified traffic. Next, conduct a few spot checks just across those terms. So once you've happy with the keyword list that you've got, take the top 10, 20, maybe even 30 and actually just do some Google searches and see if that competitor consistently does come up on those keywords to actually make sure they're ranking, but also visit their site and just see what their services are as well and how they potentially may segment their campaigns. So potentially you could run the exact same exercise that we've just done for our own website, but on your competitor's website to actually get the keywords that you might want to target there. Finally, when looking at competitors, what we want to consider is the competition level. So you can see that there's essentially a range between low, medium, and high competition. High is obviously where a lot of the traffic is going to be and where a lot of advertisers are going to be bidding. The downside of this though is it's going to be very expensive. So if you don't have a large budget, you might actually want to avoid quite a few of the terms that are high in competition. Where your opportunity probably lies is in the media or the low to medium competition keywords. So there's still some decent traffic generally across those keywords. But that's where you can probably get a foot in the door and actually get some new customers and traffic to your site without spending through the roof to get it, and then sort of move into those more highly competitive terms once you sort of see some results there. We also want to look at refining your keyword list through the opportunity of search demand. So again, whichever tool that you're using to do your keyword research, they all present some sort of seasonality or monthly average of search volume. I tend to look at also how that has changed over time or how it changes over a month. So if I noted a keyword was actually decreasing month on month in search demand, that's probably a red flag. We'd want to actually cut that potentially from our keyword list because it's not likely going to present us a great opportunity to actually drive increased traffic to the website. But if I can see a keyword is actually trending upwards in demand, that's obviously a good win. So we'd probably want to include that within our keyword list as that's where the opportunity is going to be to actually drive traffic. So definitely have a look keyword by keyword if possible and see where that opportunity actually is and if it's worth actually targeting that. Even if you see massive increases 1 month and then it all of a sudden drops off, that's an indication of when potentially you might actually want to target those keywords. So maybe you don't want to include them in your campaign initially, but there will be a month where you could actually switch them on or include them within your campaign structure. So when we kicked off our keyword research, we initially touched on this slide here around the different types of intent of the keywords and where we should be spending that time. So this is a really important slide to come back to, I think, because you need to balance, obviously, where you're targeting that. So it's always really, I guess, easy just to go after the high volume terms. But yeah, it's probably not really going to be worth it unless you do have a lot of money to spend and your KPI is actually to drive traffic and awareness. Also, the traffic quality on those broader terms, because they are quite upper funnel, it's not always going to be high quality. So you're spending a lot of money, you're likely to see a lower conversion rate there. There are obviously tactics that you can combine into there, such as remarketing for search and so forth, that may improve that conversion rate as they progress through the funnel. But yeah, where you should be spending a lot of that time, or at least trying to focus your efforts, is really on those sort of product or service terms that do have the lower volume, but they're much higher quality and more relevant to what you're actually offering through your website. So users who are searching those product and service terms are obviously already showing intent around what they're actually looking for and seeking from your business. So potentially, depending on the level of competition, you could actually invest a lower spend, but actually see high conversion rates there. Quick tip, don't forget voice query variations. Voice search is definitely on the rise over the last sort of year and a bit. And we're seeing more and more of these types of search queries pop up into our keyword research reports. So definitely consider using variations that people may actually be using with their voice assistants on phones. So things like show me, phone, ring, where is my nearest, opening hours, can I get directions to, etc. So definitely look to include those variations where possible, especially if you do have quite a up-to-date site that's mobile friendly. So finally, in terms of refining your keywords by match types, so there's different match types you could use, everything from broad all the way through to exact. I would recommend using broad match modifier and exact match structure. Potentially just cutting out broad completely and also overlooking phrase where possible. So the reason why this structure is quite effective is it gives you a two-pronged approach. First, our broad match modified keywords are a little more qualified than just a straight broad keyword. So obviously if it's just straight broad, you can show for a lot more variations. But obviously if we're using the broad match modifier, for example, PPC marketing, those two terms have to show within my search query like that. Anything can be around them still though, so it's essentially a really good research tool to actually farm for some new keyword ideas as you're running your campaigns, but also act as a negative keyword research tool. So you'll definitely find some terms there that you don't want to show for and you can add as a negative to your campaign. And then you can have the exact match variation as well. So people actually searching specifically for that. And that's obviously going to be a very relevant term. So yeah, by having exact match there, you can have a much higher CPC, as we know they're likely more qualified and ready to convert. Don't forget to transfer this knowledge across to Google Display Planner as well if you're running some display campaigns. So the tool works very similar as to how the normal keyword planner works. So you can essentially put in some seed terms or head terms, product terms, brand terms, website, competitor website, whatever it may be, and essentially then break that down into identifying different interests, topics, keywords, and placements. And then, yeah, obviously forming lists and ideas from that as well. Jump into the SEMrush demo on the keyword research now.
Thank you, Matthew. Just a moment, and I'm going to share my screen with the SEMrush presentation. Okay, I hope it's visible now. Okay. So here at SEMrush, we offer you a whole variety of options on how you can actually analyze your competitor strategy and thus get the most comprehensive list of keywords for your AdWords campaign. And the first thing that we can do here is just open the domain analytics section, choose the advertising research tab, and here in the search bar, we can just type in the name of our domain within here. Click the search button, and then we can choose one of those reports. We can choose either to analyze the positions report, which will show us all the keywords for which our domain or our competitor is already positioned, or an interesting option would be to actually obtain the list of our competitors. And I will actually access this report now on the left-hand navigation menu. And what we will see here will be the list of our main competitors in paid search. And we may consider that some companies are your competitors, but it does not necessarily mean that they are in fact your rivals in paid block of SERP. On the opposite, actually, some companies that are not your direct rivals, they may compete with you in the ad block. And SEMrush here will show you the list of the companies who are competing with you to be well positioned for the same keywords in ads block on SERP. And what we can also see within this report is the competition level between those domains, between our domain, this example klm.com, and the list of those rivals. And we can see the amount of common keywords on which both KLM and the competitors are bidding. We can see the amount of keywords for which our competitors are already placing ads in Google AdWords. And we can see some basic info such as ads traffic for a month, ads traffic price, an estimate of a Google AdWords campaign, and the amount of keywords in organic search on which our competitors are already bidding. And once you see your main, actually the main rival, the most direct competitor that you have, you can try and click on the amount of common keywords that you share with them. And this would actually take you to another tool that SEMrush has. This tool is called Domain versus Domain. And within this tool, we can compare up to 5 different domains and see which keywords are actually shared by us and our competitors. So here we can see all of the keywords for which both KLM and AdHat are positioned within the top paid results in Google. And here we can decide whether we should or should not increase some bids on some keywords in AdWords. Perhaps it would be better to remove some of them from our paid campaign if the competition is way out of our league. And there are still a couple of useful tricks that can be used within this particular tool. We can try and type the name of our competitor. We can put it in the first box and input the name of our own domain as the second. And then we can click the button Go. And then between those two domains, it's possible to choose an option unique to the first domain's keywords. And this would basically show us the list of all of the lost opportunities of our domain. So here we can also specify the type of search. So for example, paid keywords or organic keywords. And we can see on which keywords our competitors are already bidding and our domain is not bidding yet. So perhaps this could help us gain some insights when it comes to this. And we can also apply as many filters to this report as we want. We can, for example, see only the keywords with the top search volume that are extremely popular. We can see the estimated CPC estimated by SEMrush and the density of competition for each keyword. We can apply some filters and see only, for example, the keywords that are not extremely expensive to bid on, that do not have an excessively high level of density of competition in Google AdWords. And thus we can obtain actually a good list of keywords for our own ad campaign. And there are also a couple of other useful hacks that I wanted to show you here. We can try and type in the name of our domain in both boxes. But we can choose, for example, here we can try and choose organic keywords, and here paid keywords. And we can choose the common keywords option, and thus we will obtain the list of keywords for which our domain is competing with itself is organic and paid results. So perhaps it would be better to stop investing in some of the keywords if you already are positioned as the top organic result. For example, it will not actually be quite useful to bid on them in Google AdWords. And also it could be interesting to see, for example, the keywords that are unique to organic search that do not have any ads yet. So for example, like this, organic keywords, paid keywords. And here we can choose unique to the first domain. And then we can apply the option Go and sort out all of those keywords based on the position of our domain in organic search. So for example, if your domain is not really well positioned in organic results, perhaps you can compensate on this with a good AdWords campaign. Perhaps it would be quite useful for you. Perhaps it could bring you some results. And also, if you want to dive a bit deeper into your competitor strategy at this step, you can try and have a look at our other reports that we have in the advertising research section. And one of the reports that we have there is called ads copies. So here we can input the name of our competitor here, choose the relevant database, and select the ad copies report. And this would basically show us the entire ad campaign of our competitor for the previous 30 days. We can see all of the ads that they were using. They are filtered by the number of keywords that SEMrush sees. Well, for how many keywords basically we saw this particular ad in Google results. And we can click here and see the actual list of all of the keywords that triggered this particular ad to appear amongst the results. And we can see how well this ad was positioned, in which part of SERP we found it, what was the search volume, the CPC, and the density of competition in Google AdWords. And it's also possible to apply some filters to this report, for example, in some particular keyword, text, or URL. If you wish to kind of sort this out, you can select those filters here, or you can choose to sort them by a metric of your choice. And another useful report within the advertising research section is called Ads History. And this report is even more interesting because it allows us to see the competitor's strategy for a whole year. So here we can filter out some seasonal trends. We can estimate how intensively our competitor invests in some keywords, and we can see how the actual ads were changing over time. So if there were sudden changes that may have resulted in the success of a particular ad, we can monitor all of this here and thus obtain some ideas for a particular ad campaign for a certain keyword. And once you find a certain keyword that you consider to be interesting for you and relevant for you, you can also analyze this further. So let's pretend that this keyword is quite interesting for us, flights to Amsterdam from Australia. And we can click on this keyword, and we can get to the report within the keyword analytics section, which is called Ads History. And this report contains the list of domains that were bidding for this particular keyword over the previous 12 months. So all of the domains that are advertising for it. And we can click on those numbers and see which domains positioned which ads in Google AdWords, how those ads were different, and who was more successful in bidding wars. And when you wish to continue with your keyword research, you can also have a look at our two useful reports. One is called Phrase Match. And this report actually contains the phrase match keywords that contain some other keywords. Well, in this case, in this long tail keyword case, only contains one keyword, but we can try some broader terms and obtain a lot of ideas within this section. And related keywords section contains the keywords that are more or less in the same category semantically, so similar searches made by users when they were looking for those flights to Amsterdam from Australia. So some of the similar terms, some terms with typos. So this can help us obtain some ideas as well. And last but not least, within the keyword research section, there is a keyword magic tool that I would also like to show you. And here we do not only rely on your competitor strategy, but also the total number of keywords in our database. And here the total number of keywords is almost 2 billion, and we constantly keep increasing this particular number. So that's more ideas than any other keyword tool on the market can offer you. And besides from helping you get new ideas, Keyword Magic Tool can actually help you save a lot of time. And here we can type in the keyword that interests us the most, choose the database relevant for us, and click the search button. And this would show us a rather huge list of all of the keywords according to our query. And we here automatically break all of the keywords into groups and subgroups for you. And here they are sorted according to the most frequently used words in those keywords. So here you can find the relevant subgroups without any efforts, basically. And for further investigation, we offer you to filter out those keywords with some particular words. If you wish to include some keywords or exclude them, you can specify the match as well, broad match or exact match. And you can add the filters based on the words count. You can add some filters based on search volume, keyword difficulty, CPC, the density of competition, or SERP feature in order to avoid your ad competing with a particular SERP feature within the first results. And while choosing the best keywords for your future campaign, don't forget to send them to our keyword analyzer tool. And here we can add them one by one, or we can just specify a particular subgroup results like this, and we can add them to our keyword analyzer. And this tool within the tool allows you to work on those keywords even further. And here, there is also a really interesting option. Here, if you're interested in the freshest estimations for the keywords available, you can click here, choose all of the keywords, and there is an option to update all of the metrics. So once we click on it and update the metrics, it would be possible for you to obtain the freshest information regarding who are the top competitors for this keyword, how high is the keyword difficulty, and what is actually the click potential for this particular metric. So this is a proprietary metric of SEMrush, and it allows you to obtain an idea how clickable would this keyword be based on the search volume, based on the certain SERP features that we found within the results. So this could be quite an interesting metric to keep in mind. And once you've selected the list of relevant keywords for your ad campaign, it's possible to export it in an XLS file or to send them directly to our PPC keyword tool that I would talk about a little later. So now, Matthew, over to you.
Awesome, cool. So continuing on from there, so yeah, part two, looking at the campaign structure and components. So this is probably a relatively quick section compared to the keyword research process, which obviously required quite a bit more time and should require a bit more investment when looking at that. Ad copy as well is obviously a bit of a time-consuming one. So in terms of the campaign structure, so again, why is this really important? Well, mainly it allows us precise control over the budget and also the insights in what our keywords are actually providing for us is the real benefit there. It also allows us control over where and when our ads are going to show to users, and allows us to support specific KPIs that we're actually trying to achieve with our search campaigns. And point four there, it really helps keep everything pretty organized from a reporting perspective. So maybe that's not important to everyone. So maybe just the first 3 points there are what you want to focus on or take away as the key benefits. But yeah, obviously having an organized account makes life a lot easier at the start or end of each month when you're trying to pull quite a lot of data. So there's quite a few ways that you could look to actually structure a campaign. I'm not going to touch on all of them today here. The two key ones which I would suggest doing are segmenting your campaigns by themes or segmenting your campaign by objectives or performance. So we can't really touch on the objectives and performance side of things today as we're not using real data there, but essentially that would be referring to if you had a group of high performing keywords that were driving a lot of revenue for your business at a low CPA, you might actually want to take them out, put them into their own campaign and isolate them. And the reason you would do that is because it gives you a lot more control from a budget perspective. So by investing in that campaign, you know that the performance is going to be there. And vice versa. So you could pick out those keywords that are actually low performance for you, put them into a new campaign as well and isolate them and actually allocate a much lower budget, much lower bids to those keywords as well. But what we will touch on today is just segmenting by themes, as this is, I think, the easiest one to cover off. It's also the quickest to get wins. So when we're talking about segmenting the campaigns by themes, we're basically breaking it down quite similar to a website, really. So into the different categories. Products could be by competitors, could be different locations that you're targeting. So again, it really allows you to isolate certain areas or groups of keywords that you actually want to push. So this is an example here. The more granular you can get, the better, because it's going to allow you to actually isolate and again, really allocate that budget to achieve what you want. But if we're talking about a category point of view based on the examples we touched on earlier around the initial keywords we were researching, so I would break it out into different silos essentially. So you would have PPC, SEO, content writing, and then that might go into programmatic, et cetera, internet marketing. And then under that, you would have all the relevant terms obviously sitting within that. So PPC will contain all of my keywords that are relevant to PPC as a service and all those different variations. My SEO campaign would again account for any variation of the SEO keywords that I was looking to target. Content writing would obviously have relevant terms to content writing and so forth. If we break that down a little further, so what does that look like within the structure itself? So if we were to isolate PPC as our campaign, and we might have a snapshot here of some of the example terms that we looked at. So we talked about using two match types, which were the broad match modifier, and then obviously the exact match there. If you are going to use a structure like this, it's really important that you add the exact match as an exact match negative to your broad match. I know that sounds rather confusing, but the reason why you would do this is essentially to avoid conflict between the two ad groups. Otherwise, Google's not really going to know which one to show. It's going to drive up your CPCs, and it may prevent you from creating the most relevant ad copy as well. Cool, that's it for the campaign build side of things. Hand over for a SEMrush demo.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Just a moment. Okay, so I hope my screen is visible now. So once you wish to work on those keywords you selected for your campaign further, and you wish to obtain some more ideas, and you need to work on structuring, actually creating a really nice ad campaign, our PPC keyword tool within the project section can be of great help, as it offers a variety of functionalities for PPC experts, PPC specialists that can actually facilitate the work that you do on the keywords themselves. And here within the tool, it's possible to add the keywords from multiple ways. So I've already shown you how you could do this with the keyword magic tool. There is a straight export option, so you can just export it straight to the PPC keyword tool and launch a campaign this way. Or from the interface of the tool itself, it's possible to add them manually. It's possible to add them from a certain report in SEMrush. It's possible also to add them from a TXT or a CSV or an XLS file. If you're working, for example, on a very big campaign and you're updating, or perhaps you're updating an old one, feel free to just update an existing file with the keywords and continue working on them in the interface of SEMrush PPC keyword tool. And there is also a really nice add-on which can help you put together some new words, which is called Merge Words option. So here you can click on this option, and here you can just combine a set of keywords that would be relevant for you. You can just enter some words here, here, and here, and our system would actually create some combinations of keywords for you, and they would be added to the group that you specify within here. The next step that we can do here is polish our list of keywords, and we recommend by starting removing the duplicate keywords that we see here, especially considering that the keywords may be added from some other sources. So it's possible that you add some keywords from a file, from SEMrush database, or manually, or you merge them, and then it's possible that some duplicates arise. But here we created just one button that will help you remove all of the duplicates within the campaign. And the second step of cleaning that we offer is a really easy way to get rid of all of the small and bothering and really not necessary elements of keywords, such as articles and interjections and prepositions and conjunctions, or perhaps some particular words that you don't really wish to focus on, that you don't really wish to target when you invest your money, like free and so on. And in order to exclude all of the keywords that may bring you irrelevant traffic, it's possible to use our option Move to Negatives. So if you actually choose to exclude some particular keywords and avoid your ad appearing for it, it's possible to add a keyword to the negatives group, and it would change the campaign structure a little bit. So once you've done some work and you see that there are no recommendations that SEMrush suggests you within this section, it's possible to continue working on your ad campaign structure. And here you are welcome to create as many groups as you want. You can add them manually. You can add more keywords to them. You can either choose an option, move to a particular group, or you can create as many groups as you want with this particular option, create groups. For example, if you wish to target one group with one keyword, you can just choose this option to create multiple groups. One keyword equals one group. And here it is also possible to choose the drag and drop option. So you can just select some keywords from here and add it to a certain ad group on this left-hand side of the screen. So there is also a really nice move within this tool that I would like to show you. Sometimes it's a disappointment when you lose money due to wrong targeting or perhaps some strong competitors. But actually, the worst situation would be is when you actually steal the money from yourself. So it's possible that your ads could actually compete with each other. And sometimes it happens when you use broad or modified broad match types. But here, SEMrush actually helps you avoid such a situation. So once you're done with grouping all of the keywords within those campaigns, it's possible to choose the option cross-group negatives. And this particular option, this button, would automatically find all of your intersecting keywords across different groups. And here you will see an entire list of keywords that we suggest you to avoid in different groups, and it would automatically send them to the negatives list. So this way, we actually save you a lot of time, because trying to find those negative keywords manually could be an absolute time killer. And then further on, it's possible to use this option between different campaigns. So you can see the intersecting keywords between different campaigns, and this can also help you obtain some benefits. And another useful trick that I wanted to show you is, for example, if you already have a PPC team that is working on ad campaigns, and if you already have several ad campaigns launched, it could be useful to use this tool in order to make sure that everything is working fine within those existing campaigns. So you can just download a file that contains the keywords and contains the information about the match type and things like this. And you can upload it to the PPC keyword tool and analyze it within the tool and apply some changes to it. Perhaps it could be quite helpful and quite beneficial as well. And actually, our own PPC team also took advantage of this, and it brought us some profits in the past. So now over to you once again, Matthew.
Cool. Okay, on to the third. So ad copywriting and considerations. So obviously ad copy is a really key part of any campaign structure that you're looking to set up. Keywords obviously form the basis of who we're actually going to be targeting. Just because we show for a search based on what we're targeting doesn't mean we're actually going to get the click or the traffic through to our website. Essentially, it's the role of your ad copy or the ad itself to actually entice that user to click through to your website, and then obviously your website's role to get them to convert. So obviously, why is copy important? It delivers a first impression of your brand. So when someone conducts a search, it's really important that you're actually presenting, what you do very clearly there, what makes you unique. You don't want really poorly written ad copy or something that's very similar to your competition. It's not going to make you stand out. It's not going to provide a great first impression there for the user. And as I mentioned, it helps decide if a user is actually going to click through to your website or not. If you're using things like offers and all that kind of thing, that obviously helps entice users a little bit. But yeah, if you're using very bland copy, it doesn't have clear call to actions. It doesn't really set an expectation of what the user is going to find when they click through to your website. You're probably not going to see a high click-through rate on the keywords that you're targeting. And also when it comes to paid search, your ad copy is really important in creating relevance of your keywords as well, which obviously impacts your quality score. You don't want to have ad copy that is mentioning completely different services to what you're actually bidding on. So in the example where we had PPC agency, we wouldn't want an ad that actually said SEO agency, two completely different services there. So I'd likely see a very low quality score if I was serving an irrelevant ad to what Google or Bing is predicting what will be useful for the user. So when we break down an ad and what it actually looks like, obviously Google and now Bing as well, they've rolled out the expanded text ads. So we have a lot more characters and space to play with, which is great. If we break this down, you have two headlines, both are 30 characters each, including spaces. You also have the description, which is 80 characters, including spaces. And we no longer have the display URL, so to speak. They're actually called pathing URL. So you get path 1 and path 2 there, which are both 15 character snippets, including spaces. In my opinion, ad copy is probably one of the trickiest things to do around building a campaign. You can often spend hours just staring at each ad set, trying to perfect and craft the best copy you possibly can. But what hopefully we'll run through today is a few sort of easy tips on just actually how to write some effective copy so you can cut down on that time. So there's a few things that we need to consider. One, make sure the ad is unique. Don't copy what other people are doing or your competitors are doing. You definitely want to stand out. Definitely look to test things like offers and promotions. As I mentioned, they're really great to entice users to click through if you can promote that. Use call to actions so the user actually knows what to do. So for example, inquire now, book now, shop now, buy online, visit us in store. That's really important to actually get that action once they get to the website. Test different USPs and highlight what makes your product or service unique there. Extensions, so ad extensions are really important as well, and we'll touch on that in a few slides just at the end. Include your keywords in your ad copy. That's a really important one. So again, in relating to relevance, if we were bidding on the keyword PPC agency, we'd obviously want our ad copy to mention PPC agency somewhere in there. So that way the user can actually identify it with the search that they've done. Mobile is huge now, so definitely consider mobile when crafting your ad copy. We want to avoid like lengthy descriptions and headlines that aren't going to actually show correctly on mobile devices. And really just write the ad copy in relation to your audience. So really delivering what they would want to see from an ad. So if we break this down, starting with the headlines there. So the headline is what most people are going to pay attention to. So definitely put your most vital information here in your headline. So I'd recommend putting your targeted keyword for your associated ad group within headline 1. And the secondary headline or headline 2 is really good for highlighting USPs or your point of difference over the competition. So for example, here, if our keyword was PPC agency, we can see here that we can pop it into the headline. I'm also making a statement here, and we're also highlighting unique point of difference that we have within the market there. So making full use of those 2 headlines. If we're breaking that down further into the description, so this is where we have a bit more space to play with, obviously with the 80 character limit. So we want to provide additional information that's actually now going to convince someone to click through to our website. So obviously aim to include a benefit or a solution to the user's problem, and then have a really clear call to action. The biggest recommendation I can also make here is don't keyword stuff. Don't try include your keyword in headline 1, headline 2, description, pathing, as many times as you possibly can, because the copy isn't necessarily going to flow too great if you're just looking to sort of game the system. So again here, now if we look at how we're building out this ad, so we've obviously got the keyword in the headline, we've got a solution or a benefit within our description, and a clear call to action with the inquire online. The pathing, so if you do want to do a bit of keyword stuffing, pathing is probably the area to do it. Obviously, you don't get too many characters within each there, 15 including spaces. But yeah, it is probably the one place where you can make some ground in terms of keyword relevance outside of your headline and description. So that should help you lift up the quality score a little in relation to that. And as I said, mobile is really important. So definitely don't forget about mobile when crafting your ads. So the expanded text ads, unlike the standard text ads that Google being used to run, they don't really differentiate between different devices. So you can no longer select, I only want this to show on desktop, I only want this to show on mobile. So you really need to consider the formatting in how you're actually writing the ad copy. So as I mentioned, definitely avoid anything lengthy and try reduce the length of your description and really get straight to the point. And what you want to be doing as well is using a mobile specific call to action. So, I mean, if you have a really great mobile site and it's very user friendly and someone can make a clear action like an inquiry or a purchase on mobile with a little barrier, then you could potentially look to use the same call to actions. But it may be better to use something like call us today, for example. Then you could support that with a call extension, and they could actually call you directly or make contact directly. But that's not to say that we need to create heaps and heaps of different ads without that ability to actually select desktop or mobile preference. So there's a few features that AdWords actually has in the backend through the business data feature. So this is basically where you can take a spreadsheet, upload it into the backend, and then using some syntax within the ad copy itself, you can pull in different variations. So for example, I could have all my desktop and mobile variations in a spreadsheet. I could allocate the device preference. I could then use some syntax to actually pull that in. So if the user was searching on a desktop, they're obviously going to be served my desktop variation from the business data. If they're on a mobile, they're going to be served the mobile one. So yeah, there's a great guide. I provided a link here. We'll obviously share these slides. But yeah, you can read a bit more about how to actually set that up in detail. And it's definitely a time saver in terms of crafting mobile ads. Finally, directing your ads. So this is quite straightforward. Make sure you're sending users to a page that obviously has what they want or what they've searched for. And it's obviously has really strong user experience there. So don't send them to a page that's going to take forever to load. And then they're obviously going to bounce, or an irrelevant page where then they have to navigate through the website to actually find what they're looking for. Make sure, yeah, it is relevant, original, it loads fast, and it's very easy for them to navigate there. So for example, if we were doing PPC agency, we'd obviously have quite a few different pages we could select from. Don't just send them to the home page. If you have a page that is more relevant to that keyword, that's where you want to be sending them. So for example, in this case, we would actually have a pay-per-click landing page that we could drive them to there. It's much more relevant. They can then look at the services, the different types of PPC and so forth as to what they might be interested in. Finally, don't forget about extensions. These are really important for increasing your quality score. There's a whole heap of different extensions that you can be using across your campaigns. I mean, these are just a few examples here that I've managed to pull. But yeah, there's a number of benefits associated with extensions. As why I would be recommending them here. Try use as many as you can, or different types of extensions as you can. So for example, don't just stick with site links. Use call outs, call extensions, location extensions, site links, all in combination there. The more you can be using, the better user experience and providing them with more options, more information. You're likely to get a much higher click-through rate on your ad, and also qualify the user a lot better. The more information you can present within the ad and using those extensions, that obviously sets a pretty clear expectation as to what they're actually going to experience once they land on your website. Also, try and apply extensions at an ad group level rather than a campaign level. So this allows you to get much more targeted. You can definitely have some really relevant extensions that relate specifically to that keyword. So for example, if I had combined PPC and SEO into one campaign for the sake of this, I could then drill down into ad group level where I might actually have the different types of PPC services associated with the PPC agency ad group. So that might be like Facebook, AdWords, Bing, etc. And then, yeah, also ensure that your extensions go to unique landing pages. Don't send them to the same URL that your ad copy is going to. Google won't actually preference to show that. It definitely wants you to use unique pages. And that also creates a better user experience too, because they can find additional information in terms of what they're looking for. So yeah, just to summarize my presentation there before we jump back into the final SEMrush demo. But yeah, obviously keywords are important. They help people find your website. The keyword research process is comprised of brainstorming, then expanding on that using a number of tools, and then we can refine that through competitor research, volume opportunity, and the different match types. There's many different campaign structures that you can experiment with, but yeah, no matter which one you go with, campaign structure is always essential for controlling how you're actually going to hit your targets, who you're going to be showing your ads to. And ad copy is just as important as your keyword research. So make sure your ads are really relevant. They highlight a clear point of difference. They're unique, and definitely consider mobile when developing that. Yeah, so I might hand back over to SEMrush.
Thank you, Matthew. And yeah, just a moment. Okay. So hopefully our new tool is visible for you guys all. And this will be just a quick sneak peek to our newest addition, within the SEMrush toolbox. It is called Ads Builder. And with this tool, you can actually facilitate your work on ad copywriting. And you can try following the wonderful advice that Matthew has just given us. And you can try and be creative. And within this section, you can integrate the data that you already saw within the PPC keyword tools. You can basically export all of the keywords quickly into the Ads Builder. And you can use our ad constructor here. So we can just try and create a new ad. This is a really nice constructor. It provides you with a preview of the ad as well. And here you can add some headlines, descriptions, paths, final URLs, some tracking UTM marks. And it's possible also to draw inspiration for your ad campaigns. Of course, we do not tell you to copy your rivals, but sometimes it could be useful to draw some inspiration from them if they are doing an extremely successful ad campaign. You can try and select one of those suggested competitors, select a relevant database from this list here, and you can search which kind of ads are they placing. You can try and use them as a template and kind of be creative with the content that we've discovered. And this could be quite useful for you. And you can create as many ads as you want. There is no limit as to how many groups and campaigns you can create within the tool. So feel free to test it. It's the brand new, the newest addition basically within the tool. So if you have some feedback, don't hesitate to let us know about it.
Okay, Matthew, so back to you now to kind of wrap up this presentation.
Cool. So yeah, hopefully what you've got from today. So we wanted to cover 3 key areas, which was understand how to conduct keyword research and then select the keywords that you wanted to target. Next, we wanted to understand how to actually go about setting up a campaign structure in relation to those keywords. And then finally, actually crafting some really effective copy to get users to click through to your website. So from that, obviously, use keyword research tools, look at your competitors, and identify targeting opportunities based on the volumes within the market. In terms of segmentation, obviously segment by things like seasonality, objective, or performance. And in terms of ad copy, so you include your keywords, USPs, make sure you enable extensions to really boost up that quality score and enhance the user experience. And consider mobile. It's really important. I can't stress enough how many of our clients' mobile traffic's actually overtaken desktop traffic. So mobile ads are a huge or a must in any campaign structure. And yeah, that is it from my end.
Okay, thank you so much, Matthew. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. I really think that everyone's learned a lot today. We're already out of time, so unfortunately we won't really have a lot of time to do a Q&A session. I just feel like we can ask one question, and it's going to be to you, Matthew. The question is the following. Daniel is asking, is it good practice to set up different ad groups for keyword variations, for example, Volkswagen and VW?
Yes, because that way you can include the variation as a keyword within the ad copy itself. So it appears much more relevant to what the user is searching.
All right. Well, I think that's it for now. If you guys have any more questions to Matthew or to my colleague Anastasia, please feel free to contact us. You can see Matthew's contact here on the slide. And you can also send your questions to webinars@semrush.com. If you have any specific questions about the webinar itself or about our product, we'll be happy to ask them. And yeah, you can also connect with us on social media. And thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar. Thank you so much for being with us, and see you at the next SEMrush webinar. Bye.
Bye, guys.